the most important part is that I know it's a buzzword or a phrase that a lot of people are using it, but we need to break up the silos and we need to give the scientist a way on storing the data, first of all, at one place, and from there on either analyzing it actually in that place or transferring it into something like a data lake where the whole department then puts everything. And our cloud solution is really, it's obvious. So Eppendorf Bioprocess really is in the bioreactor space. This is where we are strong. This is where we are striving. This is where we live. Number one priority for me was not only look at the bioreactor data. We need to look left and right. We need to look at the data that is being created also outside the bioreactor.
Hey there, Smart Biotech Scientists. Welcome back. I'm David Brühlmann, and today we're diving into the digital revolution that's transforming our labs with Simon Wieninger. He is the business manager of digital solutions at Eppendorf. From automotive consulting to pioneering digital solutions in bioprocessing, Simon brings a fresh perspective on how we can work smarter, not harder. Grab your coffee and let's explore how digital transformation is reshaping the future of biotech. Are you juggling the complexities of CMC development while trying to enjoy the beauty of biotech? Have you ever wondered if there's a way to simplify bioprocessing? Welcome to the Smart Biotech Scientist Podcast, where we're diving headfirst into the very challenges you face. We're breaking it down, demystifying the jargon, and giving you the keys to unlock your full potential. I'm your host, David Brühlmann, and I get it. With 15 plus years in the biotech industry, I face the same challenges you do. There's a way to simplify and streamline so you can remove complexity, you can skip trials and errors, deliver without delay your groundbreaking therapy to clinics and market, and still enjoy every single step. Do you want to learn how industry experts and I did it? Grab a cup of coffee and your favorite notebook and pen. Now is the time to take your bioprocessing game to the next level. Let's smarten up biotech. Welcome, Simon, to the Smart Biotech Scientist Podcast.
Hi, David. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. I look forward to our conversation. It's a topic that's dear to my heart, so I'm really looking forward to it. And since you have worked in all kinds of industries, I would love to ask you this question. Share something that you believe about bioprocess development that most people disagree with.
Wow. Okay, what a starter. So I really have to phrase my words carefully now so that the biotech industry is not going to jump into my face. But I think there's actually something I've discussed a lot with experts in the field, but obviously also within Eppendorf. And I think everyone has heard of the new technologies of CGTs, right? The cell and gene therapies. And it's basically the new kid on the block. Everyone is talking about it. It is amazing. It's just plain amazing technology. But one thing I always say, it's not everything is new in there. It's still cells. The C in CGTs is still cells. And as an industry, have been cultivating them for a very long time, right? So it's not everything is completely new to us. I'm fully aware that there are amazing aspects and amazing things that are new and that we really need to look into it. But especially from the technology point of view, in the context of the cultivating, it's not that new. That being said, we basically often underestimate that the role of the fundamental biology, the cell fitness in this context, because the cell is the product for CGT, is what's the cutting edge for CGTs. Then to that point really is, for me, we tend to focus heavily on optimizing our technologies, our equipment, the automation, digitalization, whatever. But we need to understand the cellular behavior, the metabolisms, the gene impressions. And this is what's incredibly complex. So my point is, don't rely too much on the technologies because they work. We are there. We can help you. The industries that delivers those devices is already helping you. We want the scientists to really focus on the biology behind. I think that is the key. I hope that is not too controversial, but it's my honest opinion.
Yeah, it would be interesting to know your opinion, Smart Biotech Scientists. What do you think about what Simon just said? So just let us know by putting this in a comment or a review. Before we dive further into our today's topic, I would like to talk about yourself, Simon, because you've had quite a journey from automotive to and insurance to bioprocessing. And I'm curious, what was the aha moment that made you realize biotech was where you wanted to make your impact? And what were some interesting stops along your career path?
Yeah, so I actually asked that question myself quite some time. And parts of the answers, as always, it's a bit of luck. So, as you said, I've worked in the automotive industry, I've worked in the insurance industry, I've worked in the heavy machinery industry, very important industry for Germany as a whole. Then I was looking for something new, and as you probably know, so I've done my PhD back in the time, actually in mechanical engineering, but focusing on, let's say, digitalization and the impact on organizations. So I also diverted a bit away from the classical mechanical engineer to more a management style, I want to say. So, and actually, a guy who also did the PhD at the same institute I did, he worked for Eppendorf, and he contacted me and was like, hey, there's an open position about someone who shall do digitalization at Eppendorf Bioprocessing. It's close to where you are, and you may want to look at it. And I did, and I was amazed. I can be honest here, I didn't know Eppendorf before that. It's not a company I encountered before that. Actually, the biotech industry in general, or the life science industry, wasn't that much on my radar, but it was so intriguing. The job was very intriguing. So I grew into it after that. And once you understand what life science is, what biotech is, we are a device manufacturing company, right? So we serve the biotech market, I would say. But I learned and I understood, even before I took the job, obviously, what our devices can do and what they're used for. And that just amazed me. And along the way, I just grew a passion for it. So that's how it came to be. It wasn't honestly the one thing that I always strived for, but I think I've found a very good place right now. And again, I'm very happy that I now also have the opportunity to not only look into the digitization part of it, but basically the whole portfolio, the whole bioprocess portfolio. So that's how it came to be. And I'm very happy it turned out that way.
So when you came into the biotech industry, what surprised you the most about our industry's approach to digital transformation?
I don't want to be too direct, but one of the first, let's say, impressions was, oh, that's slow. It's slow but steady. So there's a positive in that. It's very slow. It's very steady. I got to say, I think I had the luck with joining Eppendorf and especially the bioprocess unit. The bioprocess unit has already relied a lot on data integrity and just the use of data in general, which is, I think, one of the integral part of the digital transformation. So it wasn't completely new, but it was still slow but steady. And what I also was wondering is all scientists need that data. They're so reliant on that because in the end, obviously, once you're in manufacturing, you're just striving for repeating what you've done, repeating your recipe, putting out your very valuable product, and then you're done. But especially in R&D and PD, where we are, you need the data. You need the data to actually understand what the biology is doing and how to optimize it. So I also know that it has always been used. So don't get me wrong, it's obviously not black and white, but it really is something where I would say, okay, there's so much data, you can do so much more with it. But again, also from my point of view, I also learned to understand, obviously the regulation plays a big part in it. So I don't want to sugarcoat it. And that's fine. I think the regulation, I think that's a whole different topic, I guess, but they're better experts to talk about that. But from my personal understanding, the regulation has its merits and it needs, obviously. And it also makes sense to not just jump after every innovation or whatever there is out there, because the production, especially in the pharma space, needs a certain level of stability. So I'm not aiming to revolutionize basically everything overnight. I learned that and I understood that this is probably not the way to go. But yeah, I think it's a good starting point. And maybe one last thing to that. I think I really learned something from, let's say, my past life there, my past professional life. As you said, I've worked for insurance company. I got to say, I worked there as a consultant, so I wasn't employed. But what I can tell about that project was really, that was one of the first times I really got into contact with the AI, because they basically really take whatever claims they have against them or for them, and they automizing, analyzing them, putting them into categories, and actually making decisions solely based on data. And we were tasked with, let's say, building up a whole group to really set this up, to implement this. And this is always what I look at when I compare to the biotech industry, because I would say the insurance industry is also heavily regulated, same as with banking. So those are still very regulated industries, but I would say they are in the context of using data further along, which doesn't mean that's better or not, but that's just an observation I had.
Yeah, you're making a good point, Simon, because, well, you said you thought it was slow and steady in the biotech field, which I totally agree. I'm not going to take this further, but it's definitely the case. Now, well, this leads me to this point, because digital technologies, digital transformation has been around for quite some while. And especially in other industry, like in the chemical industry or in the automotive industry or in other industries. And it's much more advanced already. So I am curious, because these digital solutions like the cloud, AI, they have been around, they have been discussed. Obviously, a lot of things are going on, and they have been discussed also in the context of Industry 4.0. So why do you think now is the time our industry is ready actually for these technologies, and why should we jump on the train now?
Very good point. So I think one of the major things, especially to the point we had earlier, right, about the regulation part, the technology has actually evolved a lot. So basically, and I'm trivializing a lot right now, so please don't take everything at face value, but the other industries use the technologies a lot. I mean, there's also been the use of AI and stuff also within the pharma industry. Absolutely. But it has been used now, and we understand it a bit better. And it has also been developed by the core companies that give us those digital technologies. And now we understand that they are there and that they are functioning. So I feel now, as again, with a slow but steady approach, we now feel more comfortable of actually implementing it into our daily work and into our products in the end. So what I mean by that, to maybe be also a bit more precise, is the tech is there. Cloud is accessible. Clouds, even so, I always tell the same story. When I started 4 years ago, everyone was saying, cloud in the lab, not sure when that will happen. Well, we all know COVID hit, and then everyone was using cloud because we needed to. And now it's actually not that much of a deal breaker anymore for most companies to even have an internet access in the lab. And once you have internet access, you have also access to the cloud. So there's one of those minor things you might think, but it's actually very much important. And the other thing is, for example, AI. We all know there has been a big hype about AI in the last 2 years, especially around the LLMs, which I definitely think have a place. But I think for our industries, there are actually other technologies that are way more important. And I can also give you one more example. I think you also had them on your podcast, our friends of DataHow. And I've been working with them for quite some time now. Also, I would say at least 2 to 3 years. And I can proudly now say that we've initiated a really strategic collaboration between our two companies where we really have developed a joint product. So DataHow has their awesome product of DataHow Lab, where they really make use of AI and give true value to bioprocess scientists. And we've created our own cloud product that I can also talk a bit about later on. And we've connected them. So we really made it easy for customers now to get the data from one place to another, and they can make use of the power of AI within the DataHow Lab solution. I really think that is something that also, from all the talks I had with experts in the field, they understand now that those technologies are there. I think I don't want to hide that the technology still needs some development. It's not a click one button and you have your perfect model. I wish we were there. That still needs development, but we can already show that there's true value for the scientists. And in the end, I would say this is what matters.
Yeah, and there is no doubt that cloud technology is transforming bioprocessing. And by the way, if you want to listen to those 2 episodes of Data How, one is with Michael Sokolov and the other one is with Fabian Feidel. So please feel free to listen to them too. What I would like to ask you now, Simon, is obviously, yes, cloud has been around. We have adopted it much more. But still, I see some hesitancy in this, and I think we haven't tapped into the full potential yet. What do you think are the biggest misconceptions we have in our industry?
The one that always comes to mind is security. That is always the number one topic that people talk about. And I think even though you need to put work into it, I think that's absolutely the case, the security topic isn't as pressing as one might think, right? So I always give also an example. We do all our communication via whatever product of Microsoft or Google or Amazon. And it really is, we already put everything on the cloud. People honestly tend to forget that most of our professional communication really goes through the cloud. And therefore, my question is always, okay, let's, especially in our case, looking at bioreactor data, super important to the customers. But if you trust, let's say, Microsoft with your communication, with your emails, why not also trusting them with your bioprocess data? And so people tend to think that, oh, I put it on the cloud, now everyone has access to it. That is just not the case. We did, for example, with our product BioInsight Cloud, we built it exactly in the way that there's technically no way that different organizations have access to the data of another organization if they don't want that. So you can always invite someone from another organization if you want to. I think that's a great feature. But by the technical way how our engineers have implemented it, it really is important to understand that there's just no way about that. So I think those are really the 2 most important points that I've encountered. I always advocate, as you can see, let's say, and I don't want to say against it, but I try to educate people about how it actually works. And I'm more than open also if people want to reach out about deeper discussions about that. And also one point that might be interesting is you can build it always in a way where it's, let's say, a one-way connection, right? So, for example, we've decided exactly because of what you've just mentioned, David, we've decided to start our cloud endeavor more as a pushing data from the lab to the outside. Because if you want to go back into the lab, that needs a different level of security that has also been solved in other industries, absolutely. But we said, no, let's make it also easier first for our customers, for their IT departments, and create value that way. Will we go also the other way around? Absolutely, in the future. But again, this is the step-by-step approach we've been mentioning so often.
Yeah, my point about security, definitely it is a concern, but if we trust the banks, if we do use e-banking, I think we can also trust other providers with biotech data, right? And also, let's face it.
I'm absolutely going to steal that example from you. That is a great one. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Why would we trust a bank and not use it for biotech data? I don't know. I don't see it. And let's face it, we work in a more global world than 10, 20, 30 years ago. So I've seen companies having a development lab in one country and then the scale-up lab or the manufacturing lab is in a different country or sometimes even in a different continent. So it's just the way we work now. And one challenge I've seen with that now is obviously data harmonization. How do we tackle that challenge?
So I think the most important part is that I know it's a buzzword or a phrase that a lot of people are using it, but we need to break up the silos and we need to give the scientist a way on easily storing the data, first of all, at one place, and from there on either analyzing it actually in that place or transferring it into something like a data lake where the whole department then puts everything. And how I approached it when we developed our cloud solution is really, it's obvious. So Eppendorf Bioprocess really is in the bioreactor space. This is where we are strong. This is where we are striving. This is where we live. Number one priority for me was not only look at the bioreactor data. We need to look left and right. We need to look at the data that is being created also outside the bioreactor, offline data from samples, for example. So this is really something where I say we need to, and I think we figured out a way on how to merge that data in one place and make it accessible for the scientist in the end. And then you can take it also, let's say, one step further. In the future, there will obviously, I know there are also other vendors out there who support something like that. You also will need a place where you can then actually put everything, as I said, something like a data lake to really put every data you have in your company, or let's say in your lab or in your R&D department, into one space. But that, again, let's say a bigger challenge. I know some companies are already on that. That's something I see at the moment more at the bigger companies, the big farmers, for example, less in the smaller biotech space, which is fine. I think you cannot solve every problem one at a time. But again, step by step, I think start at what's very valuable for you. And in my opinion, it is really, for example, the cultivating aspect. And now gather all your data around the cultivation in one place, make it accessible, and then you can use it for further cool things like AI with DataHow, for example. So bring it together and then go further with it. So this is really the way how we approached it and what my philosophy is when I think about data harmonization.
And that wraps up part 1 of our fascinating conversation with Simon Wieninger. Stay tuned for part 2, where we'll explore cloud technology, data security, and practical steps for digital adoption. Before we go, are you feeling overwhelmed by your biologics development timeline? As a fractional CTO, I help biotech companies fast-track their development without costly delays. Skip the trial and error and book a free strategy call with me at brühlmannconsulting.com and learn how we can accelerate your path to market. All right, smart scientists. That's all for today on the Smart Biotech Scientist Podcast. Thank you for tuning in and joining us on your journey to bioprocess mastery. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. By doing so, we can empower more scientists like you. For additional bioprocessing tips, visit us at smartbiotechscientist.com. Stay tuned for more inspiring biotech insights in our next episode. Until then, let's continue to smarten up biotech.